Ladies and gentlemen, just one of the interwebs out there, smashing indie strong style cinephile, one half of the reigning defending MPX Tag Team Champions, your Tag Team Champions. Now, Stargirl, let us geek about it for a scant few minutes. Now, this episode picks up by giving us a flashback, showing us Jenny at a group home. You know, in the closing moments of the last episode, Jenny, Jade in the comics, Green Lantern's Alan Scott's daughter, shows up to retake the lantern, and her and Stargirl, in typical superhero fashion, get into it before, cooler heads prevail and all that kind of stuff. So we see in the moments what kind of events led up to that, and then we see Jenny's at a group home. She's getting put out because she's just too old. She's aged out of it. She's put out on the street basically by a really crappy group home person. I kind of shudder to think what kind of upbringing they actually have in the house just by like 45 seconds of exposure to this woman that is running the house. And she gives her like this box of mints, I guess it is, and she opens it up. There's a car that is her brother's car, and then there's the ring. She puts on the ring, and it leads her to present day where the fight just happened. So she comes to Blue Valley thinking that the ring is going the lantern is going to lead her to her missing brother. Doesn't exactly work out that way. She's of course taken in by the Dugans, of course super nice people. They're cool with the fact that she is Green Lantern's daughter. Everybody else in the Junior JSA is cool with her being Green Lantern's daughter. They like the fact that she's an actual, a true legacy, which of course leaves Courtney feeling kind of stuck out, which we knew that was going to happen because all last season, Courtney, her motivation behind being Stargirl was thinking she was Starman's daughter. Her whole reason for being was like, I have to do this because my dad did it, yada yada yada. And of course, when she found out she wasn't, she was going to have to find a new reason to be Stargirl. That's what I harped on all last season, which is what I figured what was going to happen. So of course, in this episode, when we meet somebody who is actually the legacy that Courtney thought she was, we knew Courtney was going to feel some type of way, and she did, and she acted out. She had some negative sort of interactions with Jenny, with the group, because she's just feeling stuck out. She's feeling jealous as can be. Of course, after a stern talking to, not really stern, but a soft talking to by Pat, who Luke Wilson just continues to just kill it in this role. He's just dopey, but he's also serious when he needs to be. He's knowledgeable behind that goofy facade, and he's just like, he's so good in this role. Like Luke Wilson is just, I couldn't imagine them casting anybody else for this. I'm sure they could have out of the hundreds of thousands of actors out there, but he is killing it in this role. And after talking to by Pat, she sees the light, goes apologize, tries to smooth things over. Courtney goes on and on about how Jenny has everything and she's everything that she thought she was, yada yada yada. But Jenny gets mad because she doesn't have everything. She wanted to have the ring, bring it to the lantern, find her brother. It doesn't happen that way. She hits the lantern off the counter, and it sparks this chain reaction in the lantern, but then they figure out that she's the battery that's powering the lantern, and they figure that she can absorb the energy that's about to blow up, and she does that, and next thing you know, the lantern's shattered, presumably, and she's got full-on power. She can fly and all that kind of fun stuff, so I guess we'll see how that plays out in episodes to come. Courtney kind of realizes her relationship to Jenny, what it could be, kind of how they have kind of similar paths, and is all set to just be that better Courtney. But we find out Jenny dipped out, so how many episodes she stays away remains to be seen. Somebody on a board that I went to kind of wondered if maybe the Shade has something to do with Todd's disappearance. So we'll find that out as things go along. Got a little bit more from Zeke, who's tweaking the striped suit. Didn't really get into him before, but he's this dude that just won't take no for an answer and is just not bothered or kind of not really intrusive into why Pat has this giant robot in his garage. He just like sees something that he wants to help, improve upon and make better. So kind of wondering if he has some sort of like secret agenda or a secret sort of connection to something that came before, or if he's just a dude who's just like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. We see that Rick's still feeding Solomon Grundy. We've got a shot from presumably Grundy watching him as he got into his car to drive away. So kind of curious to see where that's going to go, if they're going to, whenever they have their face-to-face confrontation, with Rick truly kind of forgiving Grundy for what Grundy did when Grundy was pushed by the Injustice Society, which we have one accounted for person, which is Mr. Swift, the Shade, who comes into town. He's looking to get a hold of the Wizard's stuff for reasons we don't know. What his end game is, I imagine it'll play out. Pat has a brief encounter with him before he gets pulled off with the whole lantern thing. But Pat knows and recognizes the Watch, I believe, to know that he's the Shade. He's bad news. He tells Courtney that she's looking for a villain everywhere. That's part of her problem. She's looking for villains everywhere, which is why she initially did not trust Jenny. But Pat, she finally comes to this conclusion where she's been trying to put Stargirl first. She's going to be Courtney first, like sister and daughter and friend, and then superhero last, which, it's funny, that moment where she's getting all super serious about it, and she's like, I'm going to put Stargirl last, and then Pat says, oh, there's a villain here, and then she immediately kind of goes back on that and just is super excited to get her staff and get out there and do some heroing. So it'll be funny to kind of see. I mean, we've seen from the trailer that there is a confrontation in costume with the Junior JSA and the Shade, so it remains to be seen how many episodes we get to that. On the other villain track for this, we have Cindy, who has Eclipso. She goes back home. Her stepmother is about to just dip out because she is free of this life of enslavement and experimentation, maybe torture from Dragon King. He's dead, so she's about to dip out. Cindy shows up and kind of puts her back in her servitude place. All the while, Eclipso is kind of speaking to her and kind of tempting her and telling her these things, kind of motivate her, because he feeds on corrupt souls, evil intentions, thoughts, and that sort of thing. He gets the stepmom to try to murder Cindy, and then Eclipso ends up taking over Cindy's body and then absorbing the stepmother, which Cindy says she didn't want her to die. So apparently, I can kind of see where this is going, where Cindy released something that she has no idea how to control. So she's going to end up begrudgingly having to go to the Junior JSA. There's going to probably be a little team-upness somewhere there to put Eclipso back in back in the box. Remains to be seen kind of how that plays out. What's going to be that last straw that takes Cindy to Stargirl's doorstep to get her help to deal with this entity, this evil ancient entity that she thought she could control, but is now actually controlling her body and living inside her. So, I mean, it's classic, type of storyline where you just you bite off more than you can chew with something, and thus need help in the end. So, remains to be seen how it plays out. There wasn't a lot of action in this episode, except for the end with the knife fight scene with Cindy and the stepmom, but there's a lot of just good emotional development, good character stuff with Jenny and with Courtney and Pat, and more kind of growth with Courtney and the team. It was just really solid on that level, and that's the thing, like, every one of these episodes doesn't need to be a knockdown, drag out thing every single episode. It'd be nice, because we're dealing with superheroes, we want to see them do superhero stuff, but there's just, it's interesting enough, it's well written enough, it's well acted enough, where I'm in it for episodes like this, where they're kind of like low key, and there's not so much action, but there's just that character development. You can see the evolution, the maturity of the characters on full display. And Courtney is still she's a little girl, she's a teenager, with a wide variety of raging emotions and hormones and that sort of thing. So she's going to make the right call at some point in time. She's going to make the wrong call at some point in time. She's going to need to apologize at some point in time. Eat some crow here and there. It's natural. It's human. And that's what I like about this show, because the stuff people do, there's no plot-induced stupidity. People do stuff because it makes sense, at least to me. And that's what I love about the show. Like, the writers of this show, they get it. So definitely here for it. Definitely here for what comes next with Eclipso and with the Shade and the team, and when Jenny's going to come back, when she's going to find her brother. I'm here for all of that, because this show is just great. This is the best superhero show on TV today, bar none. It is. So if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. But those are my thoughts on it, on Stargirl. What do you guys have to think? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me, social media. Talk to me there. Talk to me here. Till next time, let us geek.